Hi, I'm Katy McQuaid, author of Humble Yet Fierce, My Life Behind the Curtain of the CIA. And I'd like to thank the Boulder Bookstore for inviting me to share with you some information about my new book. Humble Yet Fierce is a compilation of stories of courage, faith, and adventure, stories from my 32-year career with the CIA. The first question I was asked is, what inspired you to write this book? And I will tell you that what inspired me was I started speaking to workshops and as a keynote speaker around the art of humble leadership. And it was during those talks that people would often ask me a question at the end saying, "Where's your book? We want more stories. Katy, I want to hear more of your stories." So I started to realize that my experience at the CIA was pretty unique. I had always thought of it as nothing really particularly special and that actually kind of boring. But what I realized through my speaking engagements was that I actually had a story to tell. And the story that I really wanted to share with my readers is to inspire them to know they can be successful even when they don't fit the mold. Next question is, how did you come to work for the CIA? Well, I was graduating from Penn State in 1983, and the job market wasn't particularly good at the time. And a family friend told my mother, "Hey, the CIA is hiring logistics officers, and we know we need to hire more women because we have a diversity issue. We have a problem with the number of women." So my mom kept calling me at Penn State, "Hey, Katy, get me your resume. The CIA is hiring." Well, I didn't really have a passion to work at the CIA. In fact, it took me months to get my resume back to the family friend. And if I'm really honest with you, I will tell you the CIA was the best job offer I had at the time. I thought, in 2 or 3 years, I'll figure out what I really want to do with my life. That's what I thought when I was hired by the CIA at the age of 22. But it was my first overseas assignment. I was stationed abroad in a developing country where there was extreme poverty and people that have a lot less than I grew up with. And it was during that first tour when I saw children climbing over heaps of burning trash just to find a meal that I knew if my job could make their world a better and safer place than I was in. I stayed with the CIA for 32 years. Why did I decide to retire from the CIA? Well, living a life undercover for 32 years does take a toll. But more importantly than that is actually, I was managing a very large organization. In fact, I was promoted to become the deputy director of logistics. I was the first female senior executive in the logistics career service. A senior executive at the level I was the equivalent of a 2 or 3-star general. There was a lot of responsibility, but most importantly, I cared about the people. I had hundreds of people stationed abroad, and every night I slept with a phone by my bed, waiting for the next crisis to erupt in the world, or waiting for that fateful call where somebody was in trouble overseas or ran into an issue. So I was afraid that I would get sick. So when I was at the right time in my career, I decided that I would retire, just really mostly to preserve my health. What does strength mean to you? Strength to me is courage, the courage to try something new that's outside of my comfort zone. It could mean moving to a new country. It could be as simply as moving to a new city or starting at a new school or applying for a position that has increased responsibility. And I'm a little bit afraid that I may not have all the qualifications. Strength is having that difficult conversation with somebody that I know I need to have and I don't really want to have it, but I find the strength or the courage. That's what strength means to me. It's really, strength is courage. And courage is the root meaning of courage is to lead from the heart. So strength is to lead from the heart. Who were some of the people who inspired you to be a good leader? Well, I can certainly think of a few people, but the first person who comes to mind is my boss in Afghanistan. We called him chief. He was the chief of station for all of the CIA operations within Afghanistan. And he was the most selfless, authentic, and humble leader that I ever knew. In addition to all of those traits, he was extremely intelligent. He was selfless beyond imagination and cared about our country more than most people I know. When I was offered the position in Afghanistan, when I was selected for the position, I immediately wrote to Chief and said, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to working for you. He immediately wrote back to me and said, Katy, you won't be working for me. You'll be working with me. That's the type of leader Chief was. Another story I'll share with you about Chief is he knew what meant the most to his people. We knew what was important to him, but equally he knew what was important to us. And it was January 1st when I was stationed in Afghanistan. And I went into the office at 7:30 in the morning, and Chief says to me, Katy, I want you to go back to your hooch. Get out of here. I said, what? What did I do wrong? He said, Penn State's playing. Penn State's in the Orange Bowl, and I want you to go back and watch the game, because he knew Penn State football was that important to me. I tried to argue with him and say, no, it's okay, I'll stay at work. He said, no, you're going to go back to your hooch and watch Penn State play. This is what an authentic or humble leader does. They know what's important to people. Yes, the mission was important, but on that day, it was really important that I got to watch Penn State in the Orange Bowl. Another leader that I like, I haven't worked for him, but I'm actually inspired when I read stories of him, and that's Nikolai Josic, the Joker, the MVP in the NBA who plays for the Denver Nuggets on the NBA basketball team. Joker is humble. He is so talented. He's a team player. He isn't a hog of the ball. His players, the other players on the team, love playing with him, but he epitomizes humble leadership. And he inspires me every day now. Like, he's what helps keep me going. And when I want to continue to lead in a humble way, I look to him and he inspires me. What are a couple of books you've read recently that you really loved? Well, the first one is Lessons in Chemistry. I absolutely love this book. It's by Bonnie Garmis. And what I love about it is she takes on a difficult subject that's actually women in a non-traditional role. It's a book about a woman chemist back in the day when women weren't in the science and technology field as much as they are today. And there's such a wit around the book. So she takes a fairly sensitive topic, but she has a way of presenting it in a way that it's meaningful. We understand the challenges of women in non-traditional roles through this book. And I actually just love the humor that's woven throughout the book. The other book that I recently read that I absolutely adore is A Woman of No Importance by Bonnie Purnell. And this is the true story of Virginia Hall. She was a secret agent. She was a woman who was on the front lines during World War II, doing some of our most dangerous clandestine work for the OSS. The Office of Strategic Services was the predecessor to the CIA. And Virginia Hall continually, day in and day out, risked her life and ultimately helped change the course of World War II through her bravery and courage. Is there anything else you would like us to know about your book? Well, yes, there is. Humble Yet Fierce has really been hitting the mark with my readers. First of all, I hear that it is a page turner. People tell me they can't put it down. I get email after email saying, Katy, I love your book. I just wasn't able to put it down. And whether people know me or not, the feedback I'm getting is that people can see themselves. Yes, I worked at the CIA and I had some incredible experiences and encounters in my life, but we all have had interesting encounters in our life. And the book, one of my goals was that people could see themselves in it and understand that their challenges in life, that they can work through those and that they can be successful even when they don't fit the mold. My hope is that the person that wants to have a difficult conversation will now have the courage to have that conversation, or somebody who's in a bad marriage and they just need the courage to make a decision one way or the other, to stay in or to get divorced, or the person that's looking for that increased responsibility at work. You know, it seems to be hitting the mark when people read my book. It's a fun read. There's just a little bit of humor in it, and it just seems to be hitting the mark with my readers. Can you read a short passage from your book? Of course. I'd like to share with you an excerpt from chapter 1, but I will need my glasses to assist me. Chapter 1, my first tour, Southeast Asia, 1985. I was assigned to a 2-bedroom apartment for my tour. I was excited to have a place of my own for the first time. My veteran colleagues thought the apartments were dumps. But as a newbie to this life, I disagreed and enjoyed my cozy apartment on the 2nd floor of a 3-floor white brick building. As I walked to my place, I passed a pool in a lovely courtyard with green palm trees that swayed in the breeze. My apartment and office were on a compound across from the street from a large bay. It was a convenient way to live, with a short walk to work and lunchtime workouts in the pool. 6 weeks after I arrived, a record-breaking typhoon came through our location. I had never experienced such a heavy rain and wind in my life. It was a Category 5 typhoon with 140 to 170 mile per hour winds. The sound of a torrential rain beating down on the windows, pavement, and cars parked outside my window kept me awake all night. My car was in transit on a ship somewhere out in the South China Sea, which meant I had no choice but to walk to work. I was such a rookie, I didn't think to call the office and ask for a ride, so I decided to walk to work that morning. I thought, I must get to work. Donning khakis, a green cotton shirt, and white leather slip-on shoes, I made my way across the compound, trying to get to the warehouse where I worked. The rain was so fierce that when I stepped out my front door, the umbrella I was carrying immediately turned inside out, making it completely useless. I continued down the stairs to the ground floor and stepped into water so high it was above my hips. I couldn't see my feet through the water, and the rain was coming down so hard it was painful to keep my eyes open. I slowly put one foot in front of the other, feeling the ground beneath me so I wouldn't slip and fall. As I walked across the compound, chairs, tables, debris, and palm fronds swept past me. The water was moving swiftly as it got deeper and deeper. It took all my strength to move forward and not get swept away. I made it into the office, soaked to the bone. I wasn't good at asking for help in those days, so I improvised. I went into my office, closed the door, stripped off all my clothes, and placed them in front of a standing floor fan that was there to cool my usually stuffy office. When my clothes were somewhat dry, I put them back on and went out to the warehouse. The warehouse crew was busy sewing sandbags by hand to place by all the doors and windows. They were doing all they could to save our critical inventory from being ruined. I'd never experienced anything like it in my life, and I realized it was the beginning of learning to do things a new way. A few weeks later, as my office mates and I were recounting the typhoon experience, one of the admin assistants said, "Katy, I thought you were alone in your office because you were homesick and crying. I didn't realize you were butt naked trying to dry your clothes." I had to laugh. This was the start of a new adventure where I learned to adapt, accept, and admire my new surroundings. My life was filled with new sights, smells, traffic, and poverty like I'd never seen before. It was eye-opening and fascinating. So with that, I would like to say thank you. I hope you'll go to the Boulder bookstore and find a copy of my new book, and take care. Thank you.